Welcome to the screencast for EGH324 Language and Literature in the Classroom. My name is Jessica Mason. I will be convening this module. I am a lecturer in Language and Literature. I'd like to sort of flag at the start that even though Language and Literature is in the title of this module and I am a lecturer in Language and Literature, that doesn't mean that you can't take it if you are a literature or a language and linguistics student. You're very welcome to. And as we go through this screencast, sort of explain how you can tailor this module to focus on your interest, be it language or be it literature. So stick with me for the next couple of minutes and hopefully be able to decide whether or not this is the module for you. These are just some of my research interests which kind of underpin the module, and I'll talk a bit about these as we go through. So here's just a very broad outline of the course. English education is obviously a huge area, and we could spend an entire degree looking at it. So within the course of a module, the lectures are going to kind of give you a flavour of some of the key debates and key areas in English, and this will allow you to get a sense of things that you're particularly interested in, and when it comes to the assessment, which we'll talk about in a moment, you can tailor that so that you can pursue areas you're particularly interested in. Whilst at the same time kind of getting a broad introduction to some of the key debates. So what is English is a really interesting place for us to start. Does it mean language? Does it mean literature? Does it mean both? Is there a hierarchy between them, or should there be? Is one more important than the other? Where does creative writing sit? Where does drama sit? All of these are kind of questions that we'll be exploring on the module. We're then going to sort of drill down and think more specifically about these particular areas. So if we're teaching English literature in secondary schools, what kind of text should we be looking at, and who decides? Should it be the government? Should it be a teacher? Should it all be classical literature? Things like the role of popular culture is something we will be exploring. You know, should we be talking to students about things that they're reading like Harry Potter, like Twilight, like the Hunger Games? And what form should those conversations take, and who should be leading them? Should it be teachers? Should it be students? And how does including those kinds of texts and those kinds of discussions, or leaving them out of a classroom, affect how students feel and conceptualise the subject that they're taking? Equally, there's lots of debates around standard English that we will be looking at on the more kind of linguistics-y side. What is English language teaching in schools for? Is it a very kind of prescriptive model which is being pushed quite hard from the Department for Education at the moment? You know, is English language teaching about teaching students to have good grammar and write correctly? Do these concepts even actually exist? Is there such a thing as correct writing styles? Or should we have a more kind of descriptive approach to language teaching that's looking at, you know, getting students to think about why they speak differently in different contexts, why they write differently and in different registers depending on who they're writing to, what they're writing about. So these are just a flavour of some of the kinds of things that we'll look at on this course, and underpinning all of this we'll repeatedly come back to this idea about English education and social justice. You know, who is enfranchised, who is advantaged, who is disadvantaged by the decisions that we take about what English as a subject is and what it looks like and what it covers. So for your assessment for this module, it falls into two parts. The first is an independent research journal, which you will be working on incrementally throughout the entire module. Most of this will be just something for you, which is not assessed. It's what we call a formative kind of assessment, which is also something we'll learn about on the module. And this is essentially an opportunity for you to focus on things that you find interesting about English education and things that you encounter over the course of the module. So if you see a blog that a teacher has written, or an article in a newspaper, or you watch a documentary, or you read an academic article, or you want to reflect on some of your own experiences as an English student and how you've been made to feel in a classroom with positive experiences or possibly negative experiences, and to reflect on why those happen and how they could have been different. That's something you can write about in your independent research journal. When it comes time to submit it, you can either take a couple of your entries of around 2,000 words and sort of polish them up, or you can write an overview if you would prefer and submit that as kind of the things that you would pull out that you think are really salient and that you've sort of discovered from doing your independent research journal, and I will of course support you to do that. The second assessment is, again, very, very flexible and something you can completely tailor to your interests. So it's a unit design and then a commentary about that. So you come up with a unit of work, which can be on anything you like. It can be a poetry unit, creative writing unit, it can be to do with a theme. So you could look at, for instance, representations of mental health in literature. You could look at representations of certain groups or a genre. You could look at an author. You could look at aspects of spoken discourse if that's something that interests you. And then you create commentary, you write a reflective commentary, and you justify how you put that unit together and the sort of decisions that you've made about it. So if you selected some texts and not others, why have you done that? If you have ordered your students in a particular way, if you're keeping them in small groups, or if you're having all this kind of whole class discussions, why have you done that? And this will be something that's kind of very research driven and linked into research that you'll have encountered on the course of the module. So for the teaching for this module, I've already said there'll be a lecture and a seminar which allows you to explore some of the issues that have been raised in the lecture more closely. But there will also be a third hour every week for this module which will support your development of your independent research journal. I've called it a supervised independent study group, which might sound like a bit of a contradiction in terms, but this is, it will essentially be, you'll be put into a group of about 5 students and you'll stay in that group all the way through the module. And you will have a lot of freedom as a group to pick things that you would like to explore further, that you would like to focus on, and you can decide whether you would like to pick things as a group every week and discuss them, or whether you would like to take it in turns to bring something that you're particularly interested in. So you could all go and watch a certain documentary, for instance, and then use that time as a kind of subject of discussion. There will be things that will be suggested that you could talk about every week, but you could equally bring them and talk and choose them yourself. And I will sort of be around without dominating what you're doing, but just to sort of support you in that, hence supervised but independent. In order to take this module, you need to have done any one of these 4 modules. If you haven't done any of them and you would still like to take the module, do just drop me an email and we'll see if there's something that we can work out. Hopefully you've got a sense through this screencast that this is not a practical teacher training module, it's not a watered down PGCE, it's not purely for people who are thinking of going into teaching, though if you are thinking of going into teaching I would recommend that you take it. It's for anybody who's interested in any aspect of English education, and it would complement a teacher training course if that's something that you're thinking of going into. It would be looking at things in a lot more depth and giving you a lot more time than you will get on a teacher training module to think about these kinds of issues. If you are a pure literature or a language and linguistics student, you're still very welcome to take this module. There's enough flexibility within the assessments that you can just write on one area or the other if that's what you'd like to do. And I'd also just highlight that if you are thinking about going into teaching, you'll be asked to teach both language and literature, so it would be a good opportunity for you to encounter the thing that you've not specialised in now and get a broad overview before you're going into that route. Equally, however, if you're just interested in English education, this is also a module that would suit you. If you'd like to find out any more, just drop me an email. My email address is just here, or come and give me a knock. And if you want to find out some more, get a flavour of what kind of current debates are in English education, have a look on my Twitter feed and you'll see lots of kind of representative things.